This week was a little too intense compared to the ones I've been having this year. And I mean emotion wise, because I usually don't find it hard to share my emotions because it's the best way to connect with others, I think. And showing myself vulnerable makes people feel I'm being honest. And that's why I do it. And so it is not hard for me to cry, for instance. And I even enjoy it. And it really felt so good to cry again. These past days have been really good, and I did not expect it to be this way because I guess it was maybe my very first test of having learned a thing or two out of therapy. I went to therapy for about a year and a half, and it has been the only time I have gone in my life, which makes me wonder if eventually I will need to do it again. For now, I feel awesome, but it kind of excites me to face a new problem that requires professional help to solve. Not saying I want to have problems, but that's life. Problems and finding how to solve them. And that is a very short way to describe life. But for example, a simple problem is hunger, and the solution is work to make money to buy food and not starve to death. That's it. But eventually, by moving forward in life, problems tend to become a little more complex. And that's okay. Problems keeps us alive, and solving them feels rewarding. So getting back to it, I wonder if I'll face a problem so big or deep that I'll find myself going back to therapy. Or even I would like to go back just for the sake of going. I really liked the process, and it might sound selfish, but it was really cool to have 1 hour every month to talk about myself without the need to listen to the counterpart. That was relieving because when talking to a friend, for instance, I have to listen to them to then be listened to. When going to therapy, it feels great that the main topic is my life and all we talk about is me, and it is selfish, but it feels good and it is worth it to give it a try. But that was only some context. Now, this week, I cried again after a month. I literally just remembered when was the last time, and it was so sad. But to the point, this week made me realize there's one thing I don't control as good as I thought I would under pressure. And I guess it is normal to deal with anxiety because we tend to overthink what the future might hold for us. And so February was the last session I had, and I was really eager to experience anxiety to test myself. And I have felt it in the past few months, of course, but this week it was real. It felt like the kind of anxiety I haven't felt in a long time, and I really don't know what happened, but it really felt like everything was falling apart, and it was not real. Nothing happened. And it was my brain making up future stories to protect myself from making a bad call. And I let my anxiety control me for a day or two. And it was good now that I think of it because maybe it took me longer to come back to the present than I would have expected. But it was a reminder of how I used to manage these kinds of experiences back then. And I'm talking more than 2 years ago, before I started going to therapy and journaling, because I would have drowned in my anxiety trying to find a solution by imagining the worst out of any given situation, which ended up being no solution and lots of insecurity. This week's experience reminded me that I don't control what the future awaits, but I can try and put myself now in the present on the path I think might have the greater outcome. Meaning that, yes, I understand that the choice I make can go wrong, but that once I have chosen a path, I have to stick to it and not jump from path to path, just to be complacent to my anxiety, creating bad scenarios for any given path I might pick and choose. So, for instance, my fitness journey. I talk a lot about this because it's the path I've been on the longest. And I remember when I started working out, I did not expect it to take this long. And after a couple of months, I started to question my journey, thinking maybe it was not possible to achieve the outcome I wanted, thinking a few times, why even bother? Fuck it, let's go to sleep a bit more and relax instead of doing a thing with no instant reward whatsoever. But still, I did not give up. Why I didn't? I really don't know, because I was so far from my dream outcome that it was easier just to give up. But now, close to 3 years from starting, I am grateful to my past self for not giving up, because without those 2.5 years of poor training technique, poor nutrition, and poor sleep, I would not have learned everything that allowed me to make the progress I have made these past 6 months, which feel like happened overnight. Again, my fitness journey is the clearest example I have to controlling my anxiety, because I have not chosen another path. I have just made adjustments on the go rather than giving up and trying a whole new different approach, because, as I mentioned, anxiety is to overthink future scenarios that have not happened and might not even happen, but that feel real in my head, that can paralyze me and keep me away from taking action. And this week was different because my anxiety showed up by not having a clear path and a couple of projects I have been working on, both in my personal and professional life. And it felt like I was not making the right call on any aspect of my life, which felt overwhelming, because maybe I was right around the corner from screwing up big time and not achieving the outcome I want for both things. It even felt like I had to choose between one or the other, which feels weird because I already found a way to work around both projects, thankfully. But I only had to sit for a minute, go for a walk, leave the screens aside, and think, really think about what is it that is so scary about the future that paralyzes me from acting now. I can use my anxiety as a trigger for good things rather than bad ones. For instance, when I start to overthink about a given problem and my brain starts to attack me with all that can go wrong, I can take all those dangerous and harmful thoughts and do reverse engineering on each. For example, there is this opportunity to have my very first client, and I am scared of saying the wrong thing or to be looked at as not an expert at all, or to feel so nervous that I say something that upsets the prospect, or that I sound too salesy or whatever. All these scenarios stop me from actually hopping on that call and getting the experience in. So in the end, my anxiety is just keeping me away from learning. If I see it the other way around, I can use the same scenarios to fuel my progress, meaning I will say something wrong for sure, or I will not have the answers to a given question. But all these are good things, because first off, there's no way that I will have it right the first time I do something new. Second, I have to mess up to learn what works. So yes, I'll suck the very first time, and I'll keep sucking for 5, 10, 20 times. And maybe after 100, 200, 300 calls, I'll feel more at ease with the thing. But what matters now is that my anxiety is preventing me from getting to those 100 calls, apparently protecting me from messing things up in public, but at the same time, it is preventing me from getting better and achieving the outcome I want in life. So, what weighs more? Anxiety is a way to protect ourselves, but there's a thin line between actual protection and pure fear of losing it all. And maybe this is the key takeaway for me. Choosing one option or scenario over another does not make all scenarios mutually exclusive. Meaning, by choosing one, the other has no room at all in my life. And yes, there might be given cases where I'll have to choose like this, but others where I will find a way to work around the options I have available and not feel everything is black and white. There's more gray in life than black and white scenarios. And so this gives me this sense of peace, because there's always a trade-off between things I want in life. And I understand that most of the time I have to choose between black and white to make things work. But there are also a few times where I don't need to be that strict, and I like to keep it low either way, because I think there is value in going all in on a given opportunity, and saying no to everything else is required to make it work. But to have a portion of my life not be such a rigid structure might let me work on both personal and professional projects and allow me to fulfill both needs. And I'm trying to work around my anxiety and not let it control and harm my progress in life. And I think I'd have improved on this topic, because it does not take me that long to come back to the present and stop overthinking about things out of my control. To allow myself to feel and navigate through my anxiety waters and know how to come back and keep moving forward. By crying, by journaling, by running, by walking, by lifting heavy weights, by driving, by sleeping. There are so many ways so accessible to me that bring me back to the present and let me live life more fluidly and calmly, instead of living by stressed and reactive attitudes towards problems. Life is about solving problems, and the day I don't have any problems, that will be a problem itself. So as long as I'm alive, I have to accept the fact that there will always be something to fix, something to come up with a solution to, something that makes things harder. But by controlling my emotions and embracing them, I'll always find a solution, because, as I once heard somewhere, when you have a problem, think right away, does it have a solution? If yes, then why are you worried about it? If it does not have a solution, then why are you worried about it? And this quote encourages a practical approach to dealing with problems by focusing on actionable solutions rather than unnecessary worry. If a solution exists, there is no need to stress because it can't be resolved. If no solution exists, worrying won't change the outcome. And of course, there are problems to problems, and it is not the same to be late on a phone bill than to be late on rent, or even on your mortgage, or to have a sick relative, or to have no savings, or to not have a job, or to pursue a dream and not have a plan B. But in the end, I think the key is to use anxiety as fuel rather than letting it take over and worry more than needed. Focus on actionable solutions instead of wasting energy just for the sake of worrying without moving a finger and expecting a different outcome. Yo soy Bruno, and I'll see you in the next one. Vámonos, buena onda.